Finn Gallagher wiped the sweat from his brow as he strode through the sprawling marketplace. The alien trading hub, HFY Prime, teemed with life. Merchants hawked wares from countless worlds, and the scent of roasted meats and exotic spices filled the air. His mission here was supposed to be simple: ensure the safety of Earth's new trade delegates while keeping a low profile. But Finn had never been good at keeping things low-key. "Hey, Gallagher," called Jonas Klein, his partner and fellow ex-military operative, weaving his way through the crowd. "Tell me again why we couldn't be posted to some cushy research colony instead?" "Because we're too good-looking to be stuck behind a desk," Finn replied dryly. "Speak for yourself." Klein chuckled, nudging Finn's shoulder. "You're the pretty boy here." Their banter was interrupted by a sudden commotion up ahead. The crowd parted as a towering alien figure strode into the market square. Finn recognized her instantly: Kistra, the infamous Scythalian gladiator. She was hard to miss, with her emerald-hued skin and the intricate tribal markings that lined her arms and neck. Her armor gleamed, and her predatory gaze swept over the crowd like a storm front. "Now what's she doing here?" Klein muttered. "She's not exactly the diplomatic type." Finn didn't answer. He was already moving toward the disturbance, Klein trailing just behind. The crowd murmured in hushed tones as Kistra stopped in the center of the square, her piercing gaze locking onto Finn. "You," she said, her voice a rich, resonant growl. "Human, I have heard of you." Finn frowned, taken aback. "Heard of me? I think you've got the wrong guy." "Finn Gallagher," Kistra continued. "Ex-soldier. You survived battles that would break most." Klein snorted. "Oh great, she's a fan." Finn shot him a warning glance. "What do you want?" "A challenge." Kistra's lips curled into a grin that revealed sharp, pearlescent teeth. "I have grown bored of fighting the weak. They cower, they yield too easily. But you," she gestured at him, her long fingers tipped with dark claws, "you might prove entertaining." "Entertaining?" Finn crossed his arms. "Look, I'm flattered, but I'm not exactly in the arena business anymore." "Finn," Klein murmured, "maybe don't antagonize the 7-foot alien warrior." Kistra tilted her head, amused. "Do you fear me, human?" Finn shook his head. "No, but I don't go picking fights for fun either." Kistra took a step closer, her presence as imposing as a thundercloud. "Perhaps you misunderstand. This is not about fun. It is about proving oneself, testing limits." "You really know how to sell it," Klein muttered. "Do they teach that in Gladiator school?" Finn ignored him. He studied Kistra, her intense gaze, her poised stance. She wasn't just throwing around idle threats. She meant every word. And despite himself, he felt a flicker of curiosity. What would it be like to face someone like her? "I'll think about it," Finn said carefully. "But no promises." Kistra nodded slowly, as though satisfied. "Very well. I will await your answer." She turned, her cloak billowing behind her as she walked away. Klein let out a low whistle. "You know, most people would just ask for an autograph." Finn rubbed the back of his neck. "You think I'm crazy, don't you?" "Crazy? Nah." Klein smirked. "But you've got the worst luck when it comes to making friends." Finn Gallagher wasn't entirely sure how he ended up standing in a makeshift training ground on HFY Prime, his fists clenched and his mind racing. Across from him stood Kistra, Scythalian gladiator and apparent local legend. She cracked her knuckles, a slow grin spreading across her face. This wasn't how he'd planned to spend his day. "Let me get this straight," Finn said, looking over his shoulder at Jonas Klein, who leaned casually against the fencing. "You're just going to watch?" Klein smirked. "Hey, you're the one she wants to beat the crap out of. I'm just here for moral support." "Thanks, partner," Finn muttered under his breath. "You agreed to this," Kistra said, her voice a low rumble that carried even over the murmurs of the small crowd gathering to watch. "You do not intend to back out now?" "No backing out," Finn replied. "Just trying to figure out how I got talked into sparring with a 7-foot alien warrior." "Talked into it? That's generous," Klein said. "She said she wanted to fight you, And you said, "Sure, why not?" Real smooth negotiation skills, Gallagher. Kistra rolled her shoulders, her massive frame seemingly at ease. "I admire your willingness to stand before me, human. Perhaps this will not be as dull as I feared." "You've got a lot of confidence," Finn said, shaking out his arms. "Guess we'll see if it's justified." A low chuckle rumbled from Kistra's chest. "We shall see." The fight began with a sudden rush. Kistra moved faster than her size suggested, closing the distance between them in the blink of an eye. Finn ducked under her initial swing, feeling the air whoosh past his head. He darted to the side, raising his fists, trying to focus on her movements. Klein called from the sideline, "Careful! You've got a size disadvantage and, well, she's a gladiator." "No pressure, though." Finn blocked the next strike, the force of it nearly sending him off balance. "Yeah, no pressure," he grunted. Kistra didn't let up. Her strikes came in quick succession, a mix of powerful punches and sweeping kicks. Finn could barely keep up, relying on quick footwork and sharp reflexes. He managed to land a few blows of his own, though they seemed to do little more than amuse her. "You are faster than I expected," Kistra said, backing off for a moment, giving him a chance to breathe. "Thanks," Finn said, his tone dry. "I try to stay unpredictable." Kistra lunged again, and this time Finn countered with a sidestep and a quick jab to her side. It wasn't enough to hurt her, but it was enough to make her pause, her eyes narrowing. "You are holding back," she said, a note of challenge in her voice. "Do not insult me by going easy." Finn glanced at Klein, who just shrugged. "Hey, don't look at me. She's got a point. You're not gonna win by playing it safe." Finn sighed. "I'm not trying to win. I'm trying to stay alive." Kistra's grin widened. "Then fight like it." With that, she rushed him again, and this time Finn met her with everything he had. He blocked, ducked, and countered with sharp punches and kicks, using his smaller size to stay mobile. The crowd around them cheered as the sparring match escalated, both fighters pushing each other harder. Eventually, after what felt like an eternity, Kistra stepped back, breathing hard but still grinning. Finn's own breaths came in ragged gasps, his arms feeling like lead. He kept his fists up, ready for another round, but she raised a hand. "Enough," she said. "You have proven yourself." Finn lowered his fists, relief flooding through him. "Glad to hear it. I wasn't sure how many more rounds I had in me." Kistra nodded, her expression oddly respectful. "You fought well, human. Better than most I have faced." Klein clapped his hands. "Well, that's high praise. Maybe you'll get a trophy or something." Finn gave him a tired look. "Pretty sure my prize is getting to walk away in one piece." Kistra turned and started toward the edge of the training ground. "You have my respect, Finn Gallagher. I will look forward to the next time." "Next time," Finn muttered, watching her go. "Great." Klein laughed and clapped him on the shoulder. "Hey, you survived. Call it a win." Finn shook his head, his muscles aching, and began the long walk back toward the trading hub. Next time, he thought he might just let Klein take the spotlight. Chapter 3: Bonds in Battle. Finn leaned against the wall of the makeshift training room, rolling a bottle of water between his hands. The faint hum of the alien facility's ventilation echoed through the quiet space. Kistra stood nearby, her hulking frame outlined by the overhead lights, her breathing finally steady after their latest session. It had been weeks since their initial sparring match, and though Finn still had no idea how he'd ended up in this arrangement, he couldn't deny that it was interesting, challenging even. Klein sauntered in, looking more amused than ever. "So, what's it today? Hand to hand?" "More swordplay." "Hand to hand," Finn said, shrugging. "It's what she wants. Keeps me on my toes." "On your toes?" "Gallagher, she's twice your size," Klein said, grinning. "You sure you're not just trying to impress her?" Finn shot him a look. "Not everything's a joke, Jonas." Kistra stepped forward, tilting her head slightly. "You are stronger now than when we first fought," she said, her voice calm but still carrying that unmistakable edge. "Your movements are more fluid. You adapt quickly." Thanks, Finn said, taking a sip from his water bottle. But I'm still not in your league. Yet you continue to train. That says something, Kistra replied, her tone as close to complimentary as Finn had heard from her. Klein folded his arms and leaned against the wall. You too sure this isn't just some weird form of bonding? Like, instead of coffee dates, it's try not to get punched in the face sessions. Kistra's lips curled into a faint smile. In my culture, strength is respect. To spar with someone is to understand them. Perhaps humans view it differently. Yeah, we have a thing called talking, Klein said, smirking. You might want to try it. Finn shook his head. Ignore him. He's just mad because I don't invite him to these sessions. Kistra turned to Klein, her intense eyes narrowing slightly. Would you like to join us? Klein's smirk faltered. Me? I think I'll pass. I'm more of a observer from a safe distance kind of guy. Coward, Finn muttered under his breath, earning a mock glare from Klein. Kistra gestured toward the training mats. Enough chatter. Show me what you have learned. Finn stepped onto the mat, his body tense but ready. They circled each other, the faint rustle of movement the only sound. Kistra moved first, a quick jab aimed at Finn's shoulder. He dodged and countered, his strike glancing off her arm. She followed with a low kick, and Finn had to leap back to avoid it. You hesitate, Kistra said as they traded blows. Why? Because I like having my limbs intact, Finn replied, ducking under her swing and landing a punch to her side. You will not improve if you fear the consequences, Kistra said, her voice steady even as she blocked his next strike. Yeah, well, humans have a thing about self-preservation. Finn shot back, narrowly avoiding her next move. It's a habit. Klein chimed in from the sidelines. You two sound like an old married couple. Maybe you should stop sparring and start counseling sessions instead. Shut up, Jonas, Finn said without looking. The match continued for several minutes, each exchange pushing Finn further. He was getting better, even he had to admit that. But it wasn't just his skill that was growing, it was his understanding of Kistra. The way she moved, the way she calculated each strike. She wasn't just a fighter. She was a tactician, always adapting, always testing him in new ways. When they finally stepped back, Finn wiped the sweat from his brow. You're not holding back as much anymore, he said. You are improving, Kistra replied. I must give you challenges worthy of your progress. Klein shook his head. You know, most people just say, good job, keep it up. Not, congratulations, here's more pain. Finn sat down on the bench, catching his breath. I'll take what I can get. Kistra stood there for a moment watching him. You are different from what I expected, Finn Gallagher. Yeah? How so? Finn asked, looking up at her. She considered her words carefully. You do not seek victory above all else. You seek understanding. That is rare in the arena. Finn didn't know how to respond to that, so he just nodded. Klein, ever the wisecrack, added. Well, he's always been a little weird like that. Kistra's faint smile returned. Then it is a good kind of weird. As the session came to an end, the three of them left the training room together, the camaraderie between them slowly growing stronger. Chapter 4: A Culture of Combat. Finn and Klein walked into the Zethalian archives, a vast chamber lined with data crystals and glowing holograms. Kistra led the way, her heavy footsteps echoing on the polished floors. This wasn't just any library. It was a vault of her people's most treasured knowledge about their gladiatorial traditions. So, this is where you learn how to throw punches? Klein asked, peering at a holographic display of two Zethalians locked in combat. It is where we learn who we are, Kistra corrected. She turned to them, her green-hued face calm but firm. Every strike, every maneuver, every challenge in the arena. These are not random. They are woven from the histories of those who came before. To fight is to honor their memory. Right? Klein said, not quite hiding his skepticism. And here I thought it was just about hitting the other guy harder. Kistra narrowed her eyes slightly. A shallow view. Finn stepped forward, holding his hands up. You'll have to forgive Klein. He's not much of a history buff. But I get it. You're saying it's more like a tradition, a ritual that connects you to your ancestors. Kistra inclined her head. Exactly. For the Xathalians, combat is not mere violence. It is a language, a way to communicate strength, respect, and understanding. Even our victories are lessons. Finn looked around, taking in the glowing displays that filled the room. He could see animated figures demonstrating intricate moves, with annotations in Xathalian glyphs. So, this is where you learn to fight? Studying these archives. I learned here, yes, Kistra said. But one does not truly understand until stepping into the arena. There, the lessons become real. Each opponent is a new teacher. Klein walked over to a console, waving his hand over the holographic controls. A new projection flickered to life, showing a younger Kistra engaged in a duel with a massive opponent wielding a heavy staff. She moved with a precision and fluidity that reminded Finn of a dancer. The younger Kistra narrowly dodged a strike before delivering a powerful counterattack, ending the match. Impressive, Finn said. How old were you here? Kistra hesitated for a moment. 15 of your years. 15. Klein blinked. You were fighting giants like that when you were barely a teenager? It is our way, Kistra said simply. Every Xathalian must prove themselves before they are considered an adult. The arena is where that proof is found. Finn looked at her, trying to imagine what that must have been like. Facing a trial of combat at such a young age, knowing that your place in society depended on it. Must have been a lot of pressure. Kistra tilted her head slightly, considering his words. It is expected. We do not view it as pressure. It is our path, our heritage. Yeah, well, where I come from, we don't exactly toss kids into arenas, Klein said, crossing his arms. Our coming-of-age ceremonies are a lot less violent. Kistra gave him a faint smile. Perhaps that is why you humans are so unusual. You are not shaped by the same trials, yet you still find strength. More like we just stumble into it, Finn said. But I see where you're coming from. The arena's not just a fight. It's a story. A way of showing who you are and what you stand for. Kistra nodded. You understand. Perhaps better than your friend does. Klein raised his hands. Hey, I'm just here for the ride. Don't mind me. Finn glanced back at the projection of Kistra's younger self. So, you've been doing this your whole life. What made you want to show it to me? I mean, I'm just a human. Why share something so important? Kistra met his gaze, her expression unreadable. Because you listen. You see beyond the surface. And in the arena, you have shown me that humans are not as simple as I once believed. Finn wasn't sure whether to feel flattered or offended. I'll take that as a compliment. It is, Kistra said, her tone earnest. You fight with more than strength. You adapt. You learn. That is a rare quality. Klein leaned against a nearby console, grinning. Sounds like she's a fan of yours, Gallagher. Kistra gave him a sharp look, but there was no hostility in it. Your companion enjoys making light of serious matters. It must be exhausting. Finn laughed, shaking his head. You have no idea. As they left the archives, Finn felt a shift in the dynamic between them. Kistra's respect for him wasn't just about how well he fought. It was about the way he approached their sparring sessions, the way he tried to understand her culture. For the first time since he'd set foot on HFY Prime, Finn felt like he wasn't just a visitor in a strange place. He was a participant in something greater. Chapter 5, More Than Warriors. Finn leaned against the railing of a high walkway overlooking HFY Prime's central market district. Below, the vibrant chaos of traders and travelers went on as usual, but today felt different. Kistra stood beside him, silent but not aloof. In the weeks since their sparring sessions began, the Gladiator's presence had become less intimidating and more familiar, almost comfortable. Not that Finn would ever admit that out loud. You come here often? Finn asked, trying to break the silence. Kistra turned her head slightly, the edges of her emerald markings catching the sunlight. Rarely. The marketplace is noisy. Finn smirked. That's part of the charm. You get to see a little bit of everything. Different people, different ways of life. You enjoy this kind of chaos? Not exactly. Finn paused, searching for the right words. But I like the variety. It's not just about survival here. People are living their lives, doing what they need to do or what they love to do. There's something real about that. Kistra considered his words, her gaze drifting back down to the bustling scene. Xathalian markets are more orderly. Each stall has its place, and transactions are swift. Here it is unstructured. Yeah, it can be messy, Finn admitted, but I think that's what makes it feel alive. Klein strolled over, a small container of skewered alien fruit in hand. Look at you two, bonding over the joy of street vendors. Should I grab a table so we can hold hands and sing? Cute, Finn said. What did you buy? Some kind of local snack, Klein replied, popping a piece into his mouth. Tastes like lime and chili, but with a weird fizzy aftertaste. Kistra glanced at the container. That is a jactropod. It can be toxic if consumed too quickly. Klein froze mid-chew. Wait, what? Finn laughed. Relax. She's messing with you. Kistra didn't crack a smile. It is not toxic, but it does cause mild numbness of the tongue. Perhaps you should have asked before eating it. Klein cautiously swallowed. You know, for a warrior, you've got a wicked sense of humor. It is not humor, Kistra replied, her tone as serious as ever. It is an observation. Sure, Klein said, side-eyeing her. Next time, I'm sticking to the food stalls I can actually read. Finn chuckled, shaking his head. You're really making a name for yourself, Jonas. The fearless ex-marine who can't handle a fruit stand. Full. For a moment. It is what I know. The arena is where I was raised, where I was forged. To fight is not just my duty. It is who I am. But do you ever wonder what else is out there? Finn pressed. Beyond the arena? Kistra's gaze turned distant, her eyes following the flow of the crowd below. At times. But my purpose is clear. To wonder is a luxury I do not often indulge. Klein leaned on the railing, studying Kistra. So you've never just gone out for fun? Seen the sights? Tried something new? Kistra gave him a puzzled look. What would I gain from such distractions? Relaxation. Klein suggested. A chance to see that not everything has to be about proving yourself? Kistra's brow furrowed. For Xathalians, to be without purpose is to drift. I would not know how to enjoy such relaxation. You might be surprised, Finn said. There's more to life than just fighting, Kistra. You've been showing me your world, your traditions. Maybe it's time I showed you something from mine. Kistra raised an eyebrow. And what would you show me, Finn Gallagher? Finn grinned. Ever heard of a picnic? Klein groaned. A picnic? Seriously? That's your big idea. Finn shrugged. What? The simple. You sit, you eat, you talk. No combat involved. Just a chance to enjoy a moment. Kistra looked at him, her expression inscrutable. A gathering without challenge? Think of it as a challenge to just relax, Finn said. No sparring, no proving anything. Just being. Klein snickered. Wow, Gallagher. You're really pushing the boundaries of diplomacy here. Kistra considered this, then gave a slow nod. Very well. Show me this picnic. But do not think it will be easy to impress me. Finn smiled. Challenge accepted. Chapter 6. A gesture of trust. The Xathalian training grounds were quieter than usual. The typical clamor of sparring pairs replaced by the muffled sound of footsteps and the occasional soft clink of metal. Finn stood off to the side of the main ring, adjusting the straps on his gloves. Kistra, dressed down from her usual battle regalia, was moving through a series of warm-up exercises. The light coming through the overhead panels caught the intricate markings on her skin, making them glow faintly. Think she'll go easy on you today? Klein asked, leaning against a nearby pillar. Or is this another one of her lessons? Finn shrugged. I doubt she even knows how to take it easy. That's comforting. Klein smirked. Good thing I've got a front row seat. I'll make sure to wave before she knocks me flat. Kistra stepped into the ring, her movements fluid, measured. She extended a hand toward Finn, a signal for him to join her. "Are you prepared?" "As prepared as I'll ever be," Finn said, stepping forward. "You're not pulling any surprises today, are you?" She tilted her head. "If you are prepared, no surprise should catch you." "That's not how surprises work," Finn muttered, earning a laugh from Klein. They began as usual simple drills, testing reflexes, exchanging light strikes. Kistra's methodical approach kept Finn focused, but today there was something different in the air. Her movements felt less aggressive, more controlled, as though she was gauging something beyond his technique. "You are hesitant," Kistra said after a particularly quick exchange. "Why? Hesitant?" Finn asked, frowning. "I don't feel hesitant." "You hold back." She stepped closer, her gaze intense. "You do not strike with your full strength." "Maybe I'm trying not to break my hand on you," Finn replied. Kistra studied him for a moment, then nodded. "I see. You fear harm." "Of course I do," Finn said, brushing his hair back. "I've got enough bruises to last me a lifetime. I don't need to add broken bones to the list." "Pain is a teacher," Kistra said, her tone calm. "But I understand. I will not push you beyond what you can endure." Klein whistled softly. "She's gone soft on you, Gallagher." Finn shot him a look. "Thanks for the encouragement, Jonas." "I am not going soft," Kistra interjected, her expression serious. "I am learning." "Learning what?" Finn asked. "Learning what it means to trust." Kistra hesitated, the word seeming unfamiliar on her tongue. "It is not something I have practiced often." Finn lowered his gloves. "Trust, huh? You've trusted me enough to train with you this long. That's got to count for something." "Perhaps." She stepped back, motioning for him to continue. "But trust must be earned again and again. It is not given freely." Finn moved back into position, his stance steady. "All right, let's see if I can earn it today." They resumed, this time with a more deliberate rhythm. Each strike, each block, felt more like a conversation than a battle. Finn found himself watching her closely, not just her movements but the subtle shifts in her expression. She was more focused, more present. It was as if the act of sparring had become something deeper, something more personal. "Your form has improved," Kistra said, breaking the silence after a particularly strong combination from Finn. "Thanks," he said, panting slightly. "Guess I'm finally getting the hang of this." "You are," she said, her voice carrying a hint of approval. "You adapt quickly. It is a valuable trait." Finn lowered his gloves again, his curiosity getting the better of him. "Why do you keep saying that? About me adapting?" "Because it is rare," Kistra replied. "Most who train here rely on strength alone. They do not adjust, they do not learn. You change with each encounter. It makes you unique." Klein spoke up from the sidelines. "He's just good at thinking on his feet. Comes from years of running into trouble and somehow not dying." Kistra's lips quirked slightly. Was that almost a smile? "Then perhaps trouble has made him strong." "More like it's made him stubborn," Klein muttered. Finn shook his head. "I think what Klein means is that it's all about experience. You learn from what you survive." "Perhaps," Kistra said, "but survival alone is not enough. You must find purpose in what you learn." "Is that what you're doing?" Finn asked, lowering his guard. "Finding purpose?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she stepped closer, her gaze steady and direct. "Perhaps I am." For a moment, the room was quiet. The only sound was their breathing, heavy from the exertion but steady. Finn met her eyes, searching for some clue to what she was thinking. Kistra had always been an enigma to him. A fighter, a leader, someone who carried the weight of her people's traditions. But now there was something more, something human in her gaze. Before he could say anything, she extended her hand. Not to strike, but to shake. Finn hesitated, then took it. Her grip was firm, her touch warm. It was a small gesture, but it spoke volumes. In that moment, Finn realized something had shifted. They weren't just training partners anymore. They were allies, maybe even friends. "Until next time," Kistra said, stepping back. Until next time, Finn echoed. As Kistra left the ring, Klein wandered over, his usual smirk firmly in place. So, what was that all about? Trust, Finn said simply. Klein raised an eyebrow. Trust, huh? Guess you're moving up in the world, Gallagher. Finn chuckled softly, already looking forward to their next session. Chapter 7, Cross-Species Connection. The marketplace's aroma was a mix of alien spices and exotic grilled meats as Finn and Klein navigated through the crowd. Kistra followed close behind, her imposing stature parting the sea of vendors and shoppers. She carried herself with the same quiet confidence Finn had grown accustomed to, but he noticed something different about her demeanor. She seemed less detached, more interested in the sights and sounds of the bustling market. Didn't think you'd join us on a stroll through the bazaar, Klein remarked, glancing back at Kistra. Thought you'd be off meditating or sharpening blades. I have seen the market before, Kistra said, her voice steady, but I have never truly explored it. Well, you're in for a treat, Finn said. Plenty of weird and wonderful things to see. Plus, Jonas here knows all the best food stalls. Best is subjective, Klein added. But if you want something spicy enough to make your tongue tingle for an hour, I know a guy. Kistra's lips quirked slightly, her version of a smile. I will consider it. Finn stopped at a stall displaying a wide array of shimmering textiles. The merchant, a short creature with mottled skin and wide, luminous eyes, chattered enthusiastically about the patterns and their cultural significance. Kistra stood silently at Finn's side, her gaze fixed on a particular fabric woven with metallic threads. This one, she said, touching it lightly. It is similar to the ceremonial robes of the Zethalian elders. Good eye, Finn said, examining the intricate design. You think it'd look good on me? Klein snorted. Yeah, right. Maybe as a scarf. A very small scarf. Kistra's hand lingered on the fabric. It is a reminder of home, of tradition. Finn nodded, his expression softening. Do you miss it? Home. Kistra was silent for a moment before replying. I miss the clarity, the purpose. Here, among so many different beings, it is chaotic. That's what makes it interesting, Klein said. It's a mess, sure, but it's a mess full of possibilities. You never know what you'll find. Kistra tilted her head, considering his words. Perhaps. They moved on, pausing at another stall where a merchant demonstrated a musical instrument that emitted hauntingly beautiful tones. Kistra's eyes followed the merchant's hands as he played, her expression curious. Is this music meaningful to your people? She asked. It's actually from a world on the other side of the sector, Finn said. But music's pretty universal, don't you think? Kistra nodded slowly. It is calming. Wouldn't have pegged you as the musical type, Klein said, grinning. Thought you'd prefer the sound of clashing blades. Even warriors need moments of peace, Kistra said, her gaze never leaving the instrument. Finn stepped closer to her, lowering his voice so Klein wouldn't hear. You know, there's more to this place than just fighting and tradition. I think you're starting to see that. Kistra glanced at him, her green eyes steady. Perhaps I am. They continued exploring, sampling alien delicacies, listening to street performers, and watching artisans at work. The day unfolded in a way Finn hadn't expected. Less like a mission and more like a shared experience. Kistra, for all her stoic tendencies, seemed genuinely engaged, even as she maintained her composed exterior. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the market, Klein clapped Finn on the shoulder. Well, I'd say we've done a solid day's work. Food's great, company's interesting, and nobody tried to kill us. I'll call that a win. I'll second that, Finn said, glancing at Kistra. What about you? Did you enjoy it? Kistra considered the question carefully. It was different. I see now that there is more to this place than I thought. That's what I was hoping you'd say, Finn replied with a small smile. Sometimes it's good to just take it all in. No weapons, no sparring, just living. Kistra's gaze softened slightly. Thank you, Finn Gallagher, for showing me this. Finn's smile widened. Anytime, Klein, watching the exchange, shook his head. You two are something else. Can't wait to see what tomorrow brings. As they made their way back toward the outpost, the marketplace lights flickering on behind them, Finn felt a new sense of connection between the three of them. For the first time in a long while, it felt like they weren't just surviving in a strange place, they were truly part of it. Chapter 8. A New Path Forward. The morning was quiet as Finn and Kistra stood on the observation deck of the Zethalian transport hub. The massive city stretched out before them, its spires glinting in the sunlight. It was a moment of stillness Finn hadn't expected, and he found himself unsure of what to say. You seem restless, Kistra said, her eyes fixed on the horizon. I'm not great at goodbyes, Finn admitted. He leaned against the railing, glancing over at her. You sure you're ready for this? Kistra's expression was as composed as ever. It is the right decision. The arena was my world, but it no longer defines me. Klein approached from behind, sipping from a steaming cup of something that smelled faintly like cinnamon and mint. You're really doing it, huh? Leaving the fight pits for good? Yes, Kistra replied, her tone steady. There is more to discover beyond the arena's walls. Guess I'll have to find a new place to bet on fights, Klein joked, earning a small, almost imperceptible smile from her. Finn crossed his arms. So what's the plan? Where do you go from here? There are others like me, Kistra said. Warriors who have grown weary of constant combat. We will form a new path, one where our skills can be used for more than just battle. Perhaps as guides, protectors, or teachers. Sounds like a cause, Klein said. Not sure I'd have the patience for it, but I respect it. Finn nodded. It's a big change, but I think it suits you. You've always been more than just a fighter. Kistra turned to him, her gaze firm. You have shown me that, Finn Gallagher. You and Jonas Klein. Together, you have helped me see that strength is not only found in the arena, but in the connections we make and the choices we embrace. Wow, Klein said, raising his cup in a mock toast. Didn't know we were that inspirational. Don't let it go to your head, Finn said, rolling his eyes. Kistra's lips curved into a faint smile. Your humor will be missed. Wait, what about us? Klein asked, straightening. You're not leaving us behind, are you? I must follow this path, Kistra said. But that does not mean we will never meet again. If you ever have need of me, I will come. Finn held out a hand, which Kistra clasped firmly. Well, if you ever need a couple of humans to watch your back, you know where to find us. She nodded. I will not forget. As the transport began its docking procedure, Kistra turned back toward the city one last time. This place, HFY Prime, is a crossroads. It brought us together. For that, I am grateful. Finn watched her, seeing the subtle change in her posture, the calm determination in her expression. She wasn't walking away from her past. She was walking towards something new, something she had chosen for herself, and that, more than anything, was worth respecting. Safe travels, Kistra, Finn said. Take care of yourselves. Finn Gallagher. Jonas Klein. She inclined her head slightly before stepping onto the transport. As the doors closed and the ship prepared for departure, Klein leaned on the railing. Well, I guess that's that. You think she'll come back? Maybe, Finn said. But even if she doesn't, we'll know she's out there, doing something she believes in. Man, Klein said, shaking his head. You're getting all philosophical on me again. Finn grinned. Comes with the territory. The two of them stood there for a while, watching as the transport lifted off and disappeared into the clouds. It wasn't exactly the ending Finn had expected, but it felt right. For the first time in a long while, he felt a sense of closure, and something new waiting on the horizon.